The Select Board will hold a public hearing on Monday, February 5th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the Municipal Center Arcade Meeting Room, 10 Mechanic Street, on the application of New Frank Corp. Doing business as Bellingham Beer and Wine. Nimabin Patel, manager for the transfer of the package store wine and malt beverage license from Paramount Hotel premises located at 20 North Main Street. The applicant here, would you please join us? Welcome.
Would you like us to stand or
So
sit?
please be seated. It's very informal and have some questions, I imagine. Could you elaborate on the transaction and then
Yeah, of course.
Hillary, any details that we should be relevant?
Yeah, so my name is Kyle Vieira. I'm counsel for New Frank Corp. With me here today is Nima Patel. She is a manager of the corporation and she's going to be the operations manager. The 40 hours a week she's going to be on site. So just some brief, this is the transfer of a beer and wine license. It's not an all liquor license. This is at 20 North Main Street. So what's going on here is we have an experienced ownership group here. Nima's managed a gas station and another liquor store. She's quite experienced. She's tip certified. Any employees that are going to be working at the business, they're also going to be tip certified. We're going to install an age verification system at the location. This is a pretty straightforward transaction. We already have a lease in place. There's no pledge of stock. It's a cash deal. This is a pretty straightforward transaction. Essentially, the business is going to be ran exactly the same as it is now. The hours are going to remain the same. Everything that you know about that store is going to be the same. It's just going to be a new license holder and a new manager on duty. Otherwise, I mean, if there's any questions for me or Nima, we're happy to elaborate or answer anything that you have.
Questions from the board?
I don't know.
No, you just answered every single one I had.
I can hear that.
When you describe the age verification system, is that a case where the driver's license is what's going to open the cash drawer?
Yes, and it's going to be a scan to make sure that it's a verified license as well.
Interesting that we have the chief here. We are undergoing throughout town a review of some of the liquor licenses. Chief, is there anything that you would add, given your recent experiences, that we should be looking at, or not to put you on the spot or anything?
No, not for, they have experience and it's, I don't have anything specific for, these folks.
All right, is there anyone in the audience, as this is a public hearing, would like to speak for or against? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. First and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, 4-0. Entertain a motion to approve the transfer of license.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the license application of the New Frank Corporation doing business as Bellingham Beer and Wine. Niambaden, sorry, Patel,
That's okay.
manager for the transfer of the package store wines and malt beverages license from Paramount Hotel premises located at 20 North Main Street.
Just one question, the age verification system, at what point does that go in place? Is that immediate?
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Congratulations, good luck.
You're
Glad
welcome.
to have a thriving
Thank you.
business in Bellingham.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next order of business, we have two interviews coming up for the Board of Health and a few familiar faces. Mr. Martinelli, would you like to join us? So you're still going to stay in the oil business while you do this?
I'm sorry,
You assume you're going to still stay in the oil business while you do
as
this?
long as my guys can stay healthy, absolutely.
Very good. All right, I guess maybe touch on your interest now, and then Benny, if you have anything you want to share, or the board would have questions, go from there.
Did he come over to see me one day and asked me if I had any interest in the board? And I said, absolutely, I'd love to sit on the board with them. And asked him to bring me along and teach me.
Yep.
He said he would, so, all right.
Yep. Benny?
So, I think it'd be a nice compliment to our board. You know, they'll be like the other members of all the regulations for public health and public safety outside, so. The town residents and on the website, and I think it'll be a great asset for the board.
Very good. Questions?
Well, I know Richard, and I sat with him on the board of selectmen, and I know he is, very much the person who will do the job, so I don't have any problems with him going over the board.
Yeah, Mr. Martinelli was on the board in the early 2000s. Even further than
I
that,
think we're in the 90s.
90s.
We don't want to,
Yeah.
let's not date
I always yell.
ourselves. All right, bad enough.
I have no questions, and it's, thanks a lot for stepping up. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. I have one question. You've done hunting.
No.
No?
Nah,
December.
Good time. All right. Anything we should add or take effect immediately? We have two positions or is it one?
One.
One.
Yes, I haven't had an official from Trisha yet, but
So
so we're not making, we're not doing a vote tonight
First
anyway.
meeting, correct?
yeah,
We're not doing a vote
Yeah.
tonight.
okay, yeah, because Trish's term, I think.
Right.
Ends
expired
in March.
end of-
We started maybe a year ago, not getting into the point of doing appointments the night of the interviews in case there was any issues. So it will go on for a vote at the next meeting and.
Probably in March. The next meeting is our budget workshop. So probably in March.
I thank you for stepping up, as does the community.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you, Richard.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Lee.
Next up, we have multiple openings in the Conservation Commission, I believe, Hillary,
Mhm.
and we have Don Coelho and James Clancy. And Don, if you want to join us first, or that works.
How you doing?
Very well. So we have had turnover of late.
Yeah.
And an opportunity to bring the board up to its full level, which I don't think we've had for quite some time, so exceptional that people are stepping up to begin with. Would you share your background, your interest, how long you've been in town, et cetera?
Sure, and I also had a question for you guys, to just understand why there were so many openings, but you can answer that later. So I've been sort of a hobbyist environmentalist my whole life. Do a lot of backpacking, a lot of climbing, a lot of, well, used to, a lot of outdoor activities. I do currently a lot of hiking. I'm doing this virtual Appalachian Mountain Trail, whereas I've got to have a year and a half to do 2,200 miles, and I'm doing most of those outdoors. It's virtual, so you put in your miles and it keeps track of where you are. And I'm doing most of that in Bellingham. I'm exploring different areas. I do a lot of the SNET. I did 8 miles today on the SNET. When I was a kid, meaning, 20s and younger, used to do a lot of environmental cleanups, that kind of thing. And then I got married, jobs, and became difficult to find the time to do that kind of thing. I used to be a volunteer firefighter, and I used to try to do a lot of things with the community, and then I got busy. Well, I retired about a year and a half ago. And I have time now to be able to do things, and I started paying more attention to what was going on in the town. And I saw there was a need, and when a couple of months ago, I looked on the website and I saw the Conservation Commission had some openings. So I started to learn a little bit more about it and thought I would throw my hat in the ring.
Excellent.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, I read your application, and you certainly do have a great background in the biologies and in some of the things that the Conservation Commission is involved in. So I think you're really a very perfect fit for it. And I know that when you retire, it gets a little boring.
I'm not really bored, to be honest, but it's nice to have time to be able to
Right, right.
to do the things like this. I'm on another board of a historical society in Lincoln, because
Right.
that's where I grew up, and it's fun to do that.
Yeah, well, there's a need in town, and I
Yeah.
think you, as I say, your resume is very, very good, and I think you would fit in very well.
Thank you.
So that was the only thing I have to say.
No, it's, I'm okay with it too, it's great to be passionate about, and it's obviously, Conservation Commission, definitely we needed extra bodies in there, and I greatly appreciate it for stepping up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And to answer your question, Matthews, Ann and Cliff, Ann worked for the town. Cliff was the chairperson for almost 30 years,
Yeah.
recently departed. And I think that the board itself was very tight knit, but as, as we've learned when Ann and Cliff left, there was more of a need for a wider span. So more people have gotten involved. The members are relying on each other more.
Yeah.
And they're, with greater outreach. I think there was a great reliance on the expertise of Cliff and Ann. And now they're building it back up together, and it's just a bigger board, and it's beneficial. So, I don't think it's a knock on the board, and I think it was just that 4 or 5 members were, well entrenched with each other, and, newer people came on, it just took a longer time because it was very close to the vest, and now, it's a more open process. We have a new conservation agent, Hannah,
Yeah.
and
Great.
bringing some new ideas with college interns. It's actually a pretty exciting time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot going on in town
Yeah.
that deserves the attention, before development can start. So,
Thank you. That's what I was hoping to hear. I spoke to a couple of the board members just to try to get a sense of what they were like chemistry wise, and it seemed great. That's why I was a little surprised that the positions were filled, because they were very collaborative, and everything I heard was really positive.
yeah, I think that the greater interest in, Cliff and Ann, I said, were very popular, but they were doing an abundance of the work. And the other members, I don't want to use the term, didn't have to step up, but now have to kind of be more engaged.
Yep.
So because of that, they're doing more outreach and finding members. And as I said, Hannah, I think, is the linchpin that's bringing it all together and
Definitely.
bringing it on the forefront with the planning board and everything else.
She's high energy.
She's great.
She's wonderful to
Yeah.
communicate with. She was fantastic.
Yeah.
Full of knowledge too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a great find, and that's, Tim and, obviously, you know, it's Beth, you know, that was a home run on that.
So it's a big commitment, you know, that's why,
Yeah.
you know, it's not easy to get people to fill these positions because the town's very busy, there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff going on. And it's, you know, you gotta like what you're doing, I think,
Yeah.
you know, so it is definitely a commitment, but, I think you'll definitely enjoy it if that's, you know.
Yeah, I hope so. And this guy's got a great background too, not that I'm gonna speak on his behalf. But I looked him up on LinkedIn, and turns out I knew him, but I didn't know it at the time, so.
Yeah. So, you know, it's the Wetlands Protection Act that you're enforcing, but Bellingham also has their own, Wetlands Protection Act as well, so it's.
I was trying to compare well, I don't wanna get into it, but yeah, thank you. I was looking at the differences between, I couldn't quite.
It's a learning process.
Great,
I'm sure you would enjoy it.
thank you.
So, as with, Mr. Martinelli, the process was more, meet the candidates, then we can talk to Dennis and Hillary, or, you know, anyone else that has a follow-up, and then the appointments come, in the March timeframe.
Okay.
Uh,
All right.
so
Yeah,
let's
thank you
start.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was nice meeting
Thanks
you.
for your time.
And James, would you like to come on up? You go by James or Jim?
do go by James.
Excellent. I never go by Mike, so
My
I
my
can
dad is
appreciate
also
that.
James, so he goes by Jim and I go by Jim.
There you go.
Yeah.
So similar, you heard what, Mr. Coelho
Yeah.
had to offer, if you could provide some details.
Yeah, so, born and raised in Bellingham, graduated at the high school in 2016. I went to college in Norton, studied environmental science. Focused specifically on geoscience, was more geology, water resources based work. I interned with Eversource Energy while I was in school, and then I got a full-time job after school, so that's where I am now. I work in their environmental permitting department, so I permit all of the electric and gas projects in Eastern Mass, including projects in Bellingham. So I kind of see both sides of the coin there. I'm very well familiar with the Wetlands Protection Act, the other town bylaws, federal, state permitting. I was also a member of the Uxbridge Conservation Commission for about a year. I lived there last year and then moved back to town recently. Saw there was an opening and applied for it.
No, I'll just say the same thing I did with the last one, that the resume is impeccable, and I can't think of 2 better people to sit on the board than the 2 of you with all your knowledge and expertise. I think it's wonderful that we have you as candidates, so.
I'm happy to hear and then see, you know, some of our Bellingham High School graduates, you know, coming back in the mix.
Yeah.
So that get me exciting. first of all. Second of all, geoscience, absolutely, I think there was a need on the board, and I think, you're gonna bring a lot of great ideas, and excited to have you.
Thank you. It's actually not my first time sitting at one of the chairs up at this desk. While I was in high school, I was on the school committee as a student liaison.
Awesome.
So I'm very familiar with the.
That's perfect.
Just not sure, is there gonna be any issue with your employment and serving on the conservation?
Yeah, so if Eversource were to come through with a project, I would recuse myself from that hearing. Yeah.
That was gonna be questions.
Yeah, I've had to do it once or twice. It's not
As long
common.
as you know, that's all that.
Yep.
I assume you heard the comments to Mr. Quello as to why we had the opening, so I think it's encouraging to get to a much larger board.
Yeah.
And divide and conquer on walkthroughs and everything else and bring that to the table.
Exactly.
Be good. Thank you for coming out tonight. Do you have any other questions for us?
No, I think Don got to him, so.
And as Hillary said, next time is a budget workshop, so it would be the meeting after that. And we'll have it all wrapped up and presumably have you both in place.
Great.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you both for coming.
Nothing like being ahead of schedule, chief. So if you want to join us, we can talk a little bit about.
Let's go. I got a 30-minute presentation to do in 10 minutes. We're gonna talk about liquor, so now we have 4 minutes for
That's right, I
that.
only gave you 10 minutes.
Am I on the, is my PowerPoint in here?
No, you're gonna,
If not, I don't need it. I can,
you don't need it.
unless everyone wants to see it. It's more helpful to see it than me just throwing on.
I didn't actually put it on the laptop. Did you bring the thumb drive with you or anything? No. Okay. You guys have it on your,
I have
Okay.
ideas.
Yes, we have.
okay.
Okay. You Mr. Chair, you want to do liquor first, or you want to do just the general update first?
Well, leave it to your best judgment.
I'll give you the liquor update. We've got about 85% of the places complete. Couple places were closed by the time they got to them. Couple places, special circumstances where you may need a ticket to get past a certain point, or you may need to pay an admission fee to get. So we're working through the particulars on that. We are gonna do another round in a very near future. Don't want to tell you exactly when, but very soon. There was one, we'll call it an alleged violation of the last round. Hillary has that report, so that would be, if you choose to do a violation hearing down the road, you can hear that. But otherwise, shockingly good compliance. So that's the good news. And then in terms of, I know the ID scanners, so from when we do the compliance checks, the best way for us to do them is with no ID. Because if we provide a fake ID, that's a whole can of worms. We give the person and let them bring their real ID, that's a whole can of worms. So it's no ID. So places with that ID scanner, in theory, if they're using it, should say, hey, nothing to scan, we can't help you. So that's a good aspect of it. The bad aspect of it is it's technology like everything else, it can be defeated. They sell things out there that will scan. And now you go back to, if you look at the ABCC regulations in chapter 138, places are only supposed to take mass license, mass liquor ID, mass ID, military ID, passport, not supposed to take out-of-state licenses. They kind of do so at their own peril. So obviously, Rhode Island's a unique circumstance that we have a ton of package stores within eyesight of the border. We know they probably do plenty of business with Rhode Island people. That's kind of at their own peril, but my experience, my past agency with those scanners was primarily the bars and nightclubs. Primarily were where they had them, the doormen used them to not even allow people in if their ID didn't scan. But they would scan out of state, they let out of state in, and we always tell them, you're at your own peril. If you run an issue and that person's 18, 19, 20, giving you a fake ID, you're not supposed to accept it. So I don't really have a lot of guidance either way for the board on the scanners. They're definitely a good thing, but they're technology. So it's a good thing to have, but it's definitely not the end all be all.
So we had a incident going back a couple of years at one of the plazas up in Mechanic Street where the students were very much aware that if you ate out on the patio, that you would have a better chance of being served. So was that where you get into the stings will occur in warmer weathers?
Well, and I could harken back to my younger years. Now, of course, I never took a drop of alcohol underage, but you'd know certain places. Get in there before 9 o'clock, get in before 10, get in before the music starts and sit at a table. And you are already in, so. I have a feeling that's probably still a thing, and I'm sure there are still places you go in on a Friday night, if you go in at 7 o'clock and sit down for dinner, and you're still there at 9:30 when the karaoke or whatever's going on. You know, we're all the staff, and we just hear that, well, she must have, somebody checked there. So it's, I think we're still you're gonna find the creative ways around it, but, right now, we just wanted to go hit, we did a quick hit last week, and we're gonna do another one, just to get it on the radar. And I will tell you, the establishment that didn't card had the letter we posted on social media. We also mailed to every establishment hanging behind the clerk.
And
What can you do? What can you do? You know, we gave everyone ample warning.
And I emailed them too.
Right, it's like the sign that says, don't speed, the cop hides behind the sign and the police car's behind, what are you gonna do? So, any questions on the liquor?
What do you recommend for enforcement penalties?
So they definitely, Foxborough engaged town council, because I think last year was 7 or 8 violations. They always had town council involved in the hearing, and their first offense was a warning letter, written strongly worded warning, basically. And I think in the warning, it's if there's any more violations within such and such period of time, this is what will happen. So that's, I don't know what town council will recommend here, but probably
Not
something.
uncommon, what we
no, I think in the past, we've done warnings and then.
I know Hillary was gonna check to see what we've done, just to see what not that this board can't do something different than what past boards have done.
So the establishment that had the issue, I don't believe they have scanners.
I'm not sure.
One of the things I recall that goes back to 2012, 13, I think when we did it. The last time was that it became mandatory that they had purchased scanners.
Yeah.
Which is something to consider.
This establishment particularly, the one that
This
got,
one, no, I can tell you a few others you can
Okay.
check, but there will be.
Yeah.
That was one way when the technology was coming out to force them to buy scanners, as opposed to when the liquor license changed hands.
I mean, I'll tell you a funny aside. I was in my old community with my wife the other night. We went after work for a dinner and a beverage. I went to an establishment that I violated. And there must have been 70 people at the bar. Not a soul got carded. So they were violated. I'm here 8 months now, and they were violated about a month before I came over. So 9 months ago, they got a violation and right back to business as usual. So that's why we're gonna try to be a little
Yeah.
more aggressive with this, because I mean, I told her, I said, this is out of control, like this, look at this place. Not a soul was asked for ID in a huge bar with a lot of patrons, so. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna. Ooh, 7 minutes, here we go. All right, activity, those are our stats. They're kind of boring, but what's interesting to note is a little bit of a dip in calls for service, but calls for service that's a fluid thing, and we kind of we revamped how some stuff is put in the computer and classified and that sort of thing, but it's still quite a number because city of Framingham, 100,000+ people, 150 cops, 150 firefighters, 55,000 calls. So we did half the calls of a place 4 times the size. So that just shows the volume of what's going on here. And we're very comparable to Foxborough right down the street, which has a very similar population demographic to us. Arrests are up almost 50%. That's primarily attributed to a lot of new young blood in the agency. Incident reports pretty stable. Crash reports, accidents down 5%. That's a good sign. And citations are up by 30%. Again, you got young blood out there, so drive carefully. Organizational overview. This one's in this is a boring one. It's also in the budget one, so we can slide right past that. Training highlights. I've tried to kill it as best I can within the means we have for training. One of the big highlights is I've had 3 police officers do the 40-hour crisis intervention training. And I think we had 3 dispatchers do they have a 1-day version for dispatch. So that's a big one. That's one that the 1-9 pledge looks to get everyone in this building trained, but it's a challenging one because it's 40 hours of training. So it's challenging to backfill the people and the overtime and all that. We ran an employee wellness training a couple weeks ago. All of our supervisors went to an IA class that we hosted. Firearms licensing sergeants both went to an update for that. and have really streamlined that process. Big one was we were able to get three of our members through field training officer certification to become certified FTOs, and recertified the three existing ones, so we could train 6 new people all at once. I've got one officer that's been through the first of the 3-part series for crash reconstruction. We've got a lot of work that uses or requires that here, so having our own in-house person in addition to me being certified will be a nice thing. We also just ran a class for critical incident barricaded subjects for dispatchers. That's also kind of coincides with mental health crises, the people that are in crisis don't want to come out of their house, that sort of thing. So that was a good class. We ran that. We hosted that here. And then we have a lot on the agenda for the spring. We'll move on. My ongoing challenges, we're still reconciling after the property room audit that we did when I first came on board, and that's going well. We have our intern from Tri-County is helping, going through the old historical stuff from the old station from the 90s and early 2000s that doesn't exist anymore, and purging the basically dated records out of our system so we can be on point with what we actually have. We are still working our way away from paper. It's a slow crawl, but the crawl has started. We've done away with our college journal for tracking details and time off entries. Everything is moving to electronic. A lot of integration of our existing technology and getting that to its full potential, putting fleet tracking in our record system, using our scheduling software to its full potential. Policy and procedure build out that started from scratch. We had one policy that's been updated in the last 22 years. That was use of force. Everything else didn't exist. There were 7 policies from 2001 that were pretty out of date. So we've got about 45 out so far, and about another 20 or so to 25 to go. So we're banging away on that.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I didn't mean to cut.
No problem.
Appreciate it, man.
I'm just trying to bang through this for purposes
Yeah.
of time. Still working on modernizing everything, getting everything up to current, rebuilding the brand. That's well in process, and I think it's going well. We've got a lot of positive feedback from a lot of our partner agencies nearby. Civil service, I'm not gonna talk about that now. We can talk about that for an hour. And facilities, we'll hear about that after with the ARPA. That's really one major facility issue. Recent successes, we were able to get 6 officers trained at the same time, which is wild considering that represents almost 18% of the department was in training at that point. The policy is updated. You heard about that. Technology and equipment upgrades are kind of ongoing, a lot going on. We're expecting the tasers, the delivery date of those gonna push back by about a month. They're telling us early March now. So hoping by April, we have everyone trained and that on the street. If you follow us on Facebook, we've been trying to be a lot more active there and be more engaging with the community and putting press releases out, letting people know what happens, so it's not left to the speculation of that certain Facebook group that I won't mention here. You've seen the substantial increase in self-initiated activity that shows in the arrest and citations. You know, we're talking double-digit increases over the last year. Improved morale, job performance. We had a lot of good feedback from people, a lot of long-term people, seem happy with the job and happy with the way things are going. So that's always good. And we're trying to really reinvest in our staff, training, equipment, empowering mid-level managers to actually lead, and empowering officers to see things through to the end. We're holding monthly command staff meetings and keep on improving the culture, climate, and employee buy-in. Grants, this is a fun one. 911 grant, that's a yearly grant. And we do things with that money at town meeting to move it around and maximize it. So that's road safety grant. That's mostly for enforcement. There was some equipment. We bought some LiDARs, some laser speed measurement devices. We also have two speed signs. The one that says speed limit, your speed is. We have 2 brand new ones that came in. I think we're waiting for Jesse in the spring so we can sync poles somewhere and put those. They have a plan for those. E-citation, I was able to get the registry of motor vehicles. I don't really know how, but I convinced them that we needed 13 printers for our patrol vehicles so they could use the e-citation program. And if the officers issue a ticket or a warning out in the field, it's all electronic, and they print out an electronic copy, no more handwritten scrawl and all that. So they're paying for that. They're out, I think, next week to actually do the install. That's totally free. The $49,000 grant, that's going towards, that's offsetting the cost of our tasers. Bulletproof vest reimbursement doesn't reimburse the entire amount. It's half federal, half state, but it gets about 75% of the cost. So that's a big cost savings. In the past, we just ate those out of the 911 money. So now we're able to actually focus that towards training and things that was meant for. And the Norfolk County DA's office threw us $500 to get 2 of our use of force instructors to the No Relation Gaggle Law Group from Connecticut. Does a big annual training that for all of New England for current contemporary use of force issues. And they're really ahead of the curve there. So we got that done. Personal updates. Dispatch is fully staffed. I've got 3 sworn openings. I have 2 accepted offers. One's a young lady that starts the police academy in 2 weeks. One's a gentleman from Somerville, civil service. He needs the paper signed by his appointing authority, allowing him to change jobs in the year 2024. Imagine that. You need somebody to approve you to take a new job. So we'll see how that goes. Promotional assessment centers, lieutenant is Friday the 16th, sergeant is Saturday the 24th, and we're hoping to get scores in the list certified in 6 to 8 weeks after that. And in this fiscal year, we've had 1 retirement and 1 transfer. We definitely have at least 1 other retirement pending. Just seeing about what he's trying to set up a retirement job for himself, and if that goes well, it'll be sooner rather than later. If it doesn't go well, it'll be later rather than sooner. So, and then we have time for where we're headed. I'm over budget. Here we go. We're hoping to have the policies updated by July. I'm hoping to be certified through MPAC during FY25 as a certified police department, and then we'll look at accreditation for FY26. Certification is the first step. Accreditation is the second step. Tasers will be deployed this year. We're going to run a DARE/youth leadership summer camp, kind of like Franklin does this summer. I was talking to Dennis about that. Our folks, our SROs went to Franklin and shadowed them and helped them with their summer camp program. So we're going to try to copy it and do the same thing for Bellingham kids. Promotions we talked about, increased training we've talked about. We're working on enhancing our domestic violence response, elder abuse response. Caitlin Bowles has jumped on that. She's been to a lot of training. She's doing a good job with it. And you know, once we really get up to full staffing, try to get her dedicated to doing that stuff. We saw real serious results, and a lot came out of it when we started a DV unit in my last agency. So having somebody do those follow-ups is a really important thing. Same thing with the crash investigations. We talked about that. Continued social media presence, and we're gonna have some community engagement stuff in the spring, coffee with a cop, that sort of thing. And community impact, which is a clinician-based, community-based health organization with clinicians out of Milford. They're the ones that work with Milford Police and the family unit. There's a grant put in by Hopedale for the 4 towns that report to Milford Court, other than Milford, to cover the cost of their services, to do co-response, to come out if somebody's in crisis and come to the scene, or to offer services there. And we've been able to engage them at no cost to anyone in town several times while this is pending. They Hopedale put the grant in DPH put the grant back to them for their signature. They sent it in last week, so they hope within 6 weeks it's up and running. And we had a big success with it last week. We had we'll just leave it at, myself and the supervisor brought somebody over there that was in big trouble, and they were able to get that person on track and get them scheduled for follow-up right away, as opposed to the normal method of call your primary and get an appointment in 60 days on Zoom with somebody in California. So they've done very good work for us so far. So we're looking forward to that partnership moving forward. And that's what I have. That's the really fast car salesman version. If anyone has any questions. I'm over budget on time, so.
I'm just very impressed by what you've accomplished since you've been here.
Thank you.
It's refreshing.
Very impressed, Chief.
Thank you.
I do have one question for you. Were you able to get badge number 54 educated on car 54?
There's a list of movies and TV shows that all new cops should have seen. And most of them look at you like you have 6 heads when you start rattling off the list of things.
At pizza night.
Starsky and Hutchins is foreign.
At pizza night, Commander Sullivan pointed out, one of the officers, "Oh, where are you?" You know, this is badge number 54. The officer had absolutely no idea. And, you know, they
Hunter, TJ Hooker, all those great action shows of the other Chips, motor, no, nothing. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
When you don't see the response, and that makes you feel so young so quickly.
Yes, we have younger officers on the job now who were born after I started, and I just realized I said, wow, I wasn't ready for that.
As long as they know what cops is, that's all.
It's still on TV though, so that's like cheating.
No, but great work.
Thank you.
Your department has been nothing but, I think, under your command has been nothing but a positive light in the town. of Bellingham.
Thanks. It's the goal.
Well, at the
Appreciate
risk of screwing around with the fire department, I have about 30 minutes worth of questions, so I think I'm gonna come visit you.
Okay. Book more than 30 minutes though, because I can go on all day about any one of these topics.
We could just talk about the acronyms that people tuning in have no idea what you're talking about, but we'll figure.
Yeah, and my slideshow is really bullet points just to keep myself on track. I don't like PowerPoints. It's really just notes for me, so I don't wander off and talk about, I can talk about budget for a couple hours if anyone wants to hit that, but we'll skip that.
Let's just get you out of civil service first.
I could talk about that still.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it for your time.
I'll call you tomorrow.
I'll be here for the ARPA thing too, just in case you have questions about that, so.
Next part, riveting, fire department budget.
How are we gonna follow this?
You, I can log into like the website and get your PowerPoint up if you want.
Does everybody have it with them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good.
And then, okay.
Just,
I think you're saying for people who are tuned in, you put it up on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, we can if you want. It's your call.
Is it just this PowerPoint?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all it's over. Yes.
I think it's fine then.
Chief, I gotta tell you, I mean, it's before you get going, and it's like Chief Fitzgerald, and then you just absolutely, everything is so detailed. It's just so informative, it's absolutely, everything is just right on the money.
It's a collective agreement.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, thank you for giving us time tonight. I know we've got about 35-40 minutes. Hopefully we'll be able to answer all your questions, go through the budget in that timeframe.
Like just interrupting you, Chief, we never end up going by the time slot, so you could have gone longer, but you know, we're glad you finished early.
I'm a stickler for time.
You didn't wanna tell you after you get off the chair, you know?
Deputy Neal and I have been working diligently on the budget, so make sure it was submitted on time. And what you have in front of you is our FY25 PowerPoint that we've put together. And we'll start with that and kind of go through that, just so you have an idea of where we're headed and what we're looking for. Again, the mission statement of the fire department is to protect life and property with a commitment to a customer-driven fire department that constantly works to meet the fire and rescue needs of the community. I just really want to expound on that just a little bit. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but the community is growing rapidly. And with that rapid growth, so comes the demand for services, both for police and fire. So I will speak really quick, like for Chief Fitzgerald. We are seeing about a 4.85% increase yearly in call volume just on the FD side alone. So that's really kudos to the community for growing, but also something that we need to keep in our sights. And I know the previous administration, both Chief Ranieri and Chief Gentile, I found reports back with Chief Deputy Milo, talking about the growth and how we need to grow and we should be planning for it. So what we're bringing forward today is just really expounding on what they had started many years ago prior to my time being here. So if you look at our FY24 operating budget, right now we're at about 3.8 million. We're about 175,000 shortfall in overtime. The reason being for that, again, is long-term disability. We still have one member out that is long-term disability. We have started the process for retirement, but the wheels turn slowly, so we're still dealing with that. Open firefighter medic positions, which I am very proud to say, as of this sitting, we will have full staffing. We have one member just finishing the academy, and we had another member start today. And once those two were out and on shift, all shifts will be at full staffing, minus one group with the long-term disability. So, knock on wood, this is the first time since I've been here in 8 months that we've had full staffing. It's really exciting. So we are definitely moving forward. We had a $50,000 transfer at the November town meeting, which really helped us out with the overtime. But again, we are still seeing a drastic shortfall on that. We're figuring about 125,000 shortfall to the town meeting transfer in November. We're looking to see how we can make it up in May. Dennis and I have had a couple conversations, so there's still a lot of moving parts on where that's going to land, but it's something that's definitely into our sights, how that's going to work out.
Do you think the impact on your overtime would be less being fully staffed?
Yes, it will cut it down. It's not gonna eliminate it because we do fill person for person to try to keep that 6-person staffing. But it will help us, yes, because there's some shifts right now, we're filling 2 to 3 positions because of the vacancies in the academy. So,
When you mentioned maybe made up at the end of the year with several openings, if you're fully staffed, those don't exist.
so right now we are, about 61% of our salaries that we've used. So because of the open positions, the salaries we haven't used all of, it should be 50 to
Okay,
49%. We're actually 61% still remaining in our salaries that we hopefully will be able to use that to help offset some of the overtime.
Okay.
That's how that's gonna to work out. It's just a
For
transfer.
a little over 7/12, so they way into the year.
Correct. What we use, Michael, is a benchmark is, by January 1st, we'd like to do about 50% through our budget. Overtime is obviously there, maintenance and stuff is well below that. The salaries, because of the shortfall in staffing, were a little bit higher. As I said, as of Friday, we were 61% still left in the salaries, which will help us out hopefully at the end. Now, that's not barring anything else popped up, so I want to be very cautious when I say that. All right, so our proposed FY 25 budget, we're submitting about a $4.9 million budget. That's a 21% increase from the FY 24. I know that's a heart attack. It's a large number, and I do understand that, and I want to take a little bit of time with the deputy to break this down. So back in during the summertime, really taking off probably around August, September, we contracted with a private vendor to do a station/staffing study assessment, which you all have copies of. It's a 42-page report. It really broke down our shortfalls of our staffing, our travel distances, our station locations, and really where we should be. So as we start looking into that and saying, how do we build the department based on what Chief Ranieri and Chief Gentile had said many years ago to where we are today? So our current staffing is 6 people or 6 personnel per shift. So it's a captain and 3 firefighter paramedics at headquarters, and a lieutenant and 1 firefighter paramedic at South, and then 2 in fire prevention, the deputy and myself. With that being said, we look at our call volume with the 4.85% increase consistently over the last 9 years. And we haven't increased staffing since 2013. Technically, we're still running at the same numbers from 2013. So as we start looking at it and saying, how do we increase the workforce? What can we do to offer a better service for the residents of Bellingham? I have to give the deputy a lot of credit for this one. This was the deputy's idea. We're proposing the medic-only positions. Now, the medic-only positions are really unique. We've gone through a lot of processes, and I want to thank the board for that. We've adopted the language. I thank the community for that. We've worked through to get into what pay system and things like that they would be in. So again, all steps that are forward in the right direction. We have one more step that we're meeting with Dennis on tomorrow to impact bargain some language and hopefully get that finished up. And then we have to kind of work on where the funding is going to come. So what the medic-only positions are going to do for us is they're going to allow us to have 1 staffed ambulance with non-firefighters, which is very important. Right now, if both fire trucks are out, we have no ambulance coverage. If both ambulances are out, we have a 2-person fire truck, which is 25% effective. If we start looking at the staffing studies that are out there, we don't even meet the minimum staffing requirements by the NFPA or USAF documents and data. So those are concerns both for the deputy and I, as well as the personnel, to what we provide for service for the residents of Bellingham. And I'll be very honest with you, it's a deceiving number to see a fire truck pull up with 2 people. It is not a safe factor. It's not safe for the personnel, nor is it safe for the residents of the town of Bellingham. And that's what we're here to advocate for, is a good, safe system. With the medic only, if both fire trucks are out, we could have a staffed ambulance of still 2 personnel. If that ambulance goes out with those 2 personnel, I still have a staffed fire truck at both stations until the south station goes out. And then we'll have 1 staffed fire truck at headquarters is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get to the purpose of a captain and 2 on a fire truck. So we have at least 1 dedicated fire truck
to start an incident, whether that third or fourth call comes in, and which we're starting to see more of, and I apologize. Due to our software, it is very difficult to get the consecutive calls in a day out of the system. But I can tell you, just really looking at through the, our software, that we're seeing anywhere sometimes 3 to 4 calls in a time frame multiple times a day. So what I'm saying is consecutive calls coming in where both ambulances and the fire truck, or 2 fire trucks and an ambulance. It's happening more and more. It happened today where both ambulances are out at the time with a fire truck and an ambulance on one call, and an ambulance going by itself on another call. So it's happening more, and it's going to continue to happen more as the community continues to grow. So that's really what we're basing off of. So the medical-only positions, it is part of us growing. We know the workforce is difficult to find firefighter paramedics. We've kind of put some feelers out, and we feel that going with the medic-only route is something that we will able to fill and with quality candidates. And I've talked with numerous other fire chiefs as well as the deputy, that this is a program that's being watched very closely. A lot of other departments are like, hey, we didn't think of that. This is really kind of neat. How is this going to work? So we're kind of being ahead right now, and I like it. We're going to be on the cutting edge. Now, we're not going to go without skinning our knees a little bit here and there, but we need to brush ourselves off, and we need to continue forward. And I'm very proud to sit here and say in front of you with the deputy that we are working hand in hand with the union on this as well, and they're on board with it also. So I'm here to really push that program because I think it's the way of the future. That will get the groups to 8 personnel. And we're still working out how the staffing will be in responses. So I don't have all of that worked out with the deputy yet, but we are starting just to discuss that. So that's where the medic only positions really come into play for the community and what we're trying to do. If you go down and look at our salaries for 146,000, that's a 3.9% increase. That's solely in contractual obligations. That's what we're bound to do the increases for wage increases, time off and things like that. So those are things that are bound by the contract that we have no choice to do. Operations, we're looking to a 25% increase. And as we're sitting here in front of you, there's multiple factors, and I'm sure everyone's feeling it. Again, equipment replacement. I can say to you comfortably, we have 1 fire apparatus, fire pumper on order that was approved by November. We will be asking for that second pumper. The 1995 pumper has been in service more times than not lately out of the South Station. The vehicle is getting tired, but we are continually to put money into that apparatus to keep it on the road. We've been down to 2 pumpers in the last 3 months, 4 months, more times than not. More than half. So, you know, equipment repairs and replacements, training, inflation, daily operations, and outfitting medical onlys. These are all things that will fall into that operations of increasing the, increasing it by 178,000. Again, a new initiative is our medic only program, which really we're excited about. We hope that we can get the support from the board and the community for the additional funding to get this program off the ground. Questions on any of that? I know I gave a lot. I want to give time for questions at this point.
Has there been any interest in the medics?
Yes. Yes. More than we anticipated,
Okay.
to be honest with you.
Very quality medics or?
Very quality medics, and I'll leave it at that. Very quality medics. They're again watching the program.
And Michael, for you.
Please.
So when you talk about the medic program, absent adding the staff, if you were to were at the current levels and you had an opening, is it conceivable that you would fill that with medic only, or only under the new proposal? Is it medic only?
Under the new proposal, so it would be, we would fill whatever position becomes vacated is what we would advertise to fill. So if we had a firefighter paramedic that retired, and again, I'm speaking really out of school right now, we're working on the language, I want to be careful. We would see if anyone from the medic only program was interested in what we call sliding across the floor or moving up to a firefighter medic position. And if not, if everybody was comfortable staying in that role of the medic only, we would look to hire to fill the firefighter paramedic position if we could. There's multiple layers to that, and those are things that we're still working through.
When you speak about the NFPA levels that we're not there yet, are there any towns in the region that are there yet?
Milford, Franklin, Milford does not run an ambulance. They're raising their staffing to 11 a shift out of 2 stations with no transport ambulance. They run a private ambulance company, runs the service. all they provide is first responder. Franklin runs 3 ambulances now, and I believe they're 12 a shift, deputy. 14, and I think we dropped to 12.
Milford's not running their own ambulance. So is that similar like Blackstone Millville, where it's our contracted ambulance services?
Blackstone and Millville Fire Department runs their EMS. It would be like a Framingham, Milford, Brockton, your larger cities where they don't have their own EMS, they contract with a private ambulance company. That is raising a whole issue in itself.
Where are they based out of? I mean, they could be based out of the station.
No, they're based out of, I can give you Milford as an example. They're based out of Depot Street over by Depot Street Tavern. They're across the street, the railroad tracks, there's a little garage. Two right there, correct. Yep, P1 and P2, which are 2 paramedic trucks.
And does that create a problem then to get to all locations of the town?
Absolutely. They rely on Milford Fire to get there first and provide or start aid at both vehicles, and then mutual aid would kick in, whether it be, you know, one of the immediate surrounding communities. We do mutual aid with Milford for an ambulance as well too, because we're all drawing off the same resources. We need each other. So there are departments around us that are meeting those NFPA standards for staffing and call response times. We are just not there yet. We need to continue to grow over the years. And I think at some point we may be able to get there.
So what drives a decision like that for a town? Is it cost basis, collection based?
I think it's a little of both, Michael, to be honest with you. Cost base is definitely one. That's, you know, salaries we know is the largest portion of it. And then cost base of what we take in for revenues. Heidi, if you can correct me if you have the numbers, I believe our average is about 1.3 million in revenue a year for our ambulance.
I think the other thing is in smaller towns don't typically contract out.
No.
Well, some do because in order.
You have to have enough run.
You have to have enough.
Correct.
runs.
If-
So
can I-
whereas Milford does.
If I could expound on that a little bit,
Yeah.
exactly, Dennis. So why it works for like a Milford, a Framingham, or Brockton, they have hospitals that are in their communities, they have nursing homes. Let's be honest, the money is not made in 911 contracts. So these private ambulance companies are not making their money on 911 services, they're making the money on the transfers out of the hospitals or the nursing homes.
It's interesting, so you know that the high school has an athletic trainer.
Mhm.
She works on an overnight service for a private ambulance. They respond to calls, but when they're not doing that, they're doing dialysis response.
Correct.
And that
Exactly. So I can sit here comfortably and say to you, we wouldn't see 2 dedicated, if we went to the private sector, and that's not even for us, the discussion at this point, it's just not feasible. You would not get 2 dedicated paramedic trucks to the town of Bellingham because there's nothing to draw them here. You would be sharing a truck with a Milford, a Framingham, or another community because they don't make money on the 911 system. They make money off of the transfers.
To put it in perspective,
Yeah.
we bill about $3.5 million. We
Right.
collect about 1.3 because of the write-offs. Medicare only allows a certain amount for billing, whereas the insurance companies, of course, pay most of the bill. But most of our runs are probably Medicare, I would imagine, or a large percentage are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have some other questions, but I think it's gonna come
Down further.
after you finish.
Okay, excellent. Anybody else for what we've done so far? Thank you. Okay, so we're looking, next page is our medic only program. I really just want to outline this again. It allows for 1 dedicated ambulance. South ambulance will be still cross-staffed with firefighter paramedics. We just will not have that option of having enough staffing to do a medic only today at that South Station. Again, we're looking for try to get a 3 personnel staff engine. If all personnel were in South and all personnel were in a headquarters and we had a reported fire, something in a commercial building where it was resources are needed, we would have 2 3-person engines responding and a 2-person paramedic and only ambulance that could start rendering aid right away to a injured civilian. They could be standing by for an injured firefighter or they could be setting up rehab. Right now, if we have a structure fire, our ambulance comes from Plainville, so there's a 20-minute delay. Now add in, we pull up and somebody, God forbid, is injured on the front lawn, or a firefighter gets injured immediately, we lose the firefight at that point. We have to take our staff and redirect them because life safety comes number 1. So by having this medic-only vehicle to start with, it's definitely a bonus because we could have that vehicle with us as much as possible, and they're not obviously doing other emergency calls within the district. Excuse me, this also builds on the BFD's 2024 master plan, which you all have a copy of. then that plan states we should be at 8 personnel per shift today. This is, again, this is not Chief Miller's opinion, Deputy Milo, the locals' opinion. This is a private contractor that does this for a living all over the United States and took everything, spent time with us and said, listen, here's where you need to be, but also lays out where we should be in the future. So we can start planning as well too. And as the community continues to grow, so will our services. But we need to get to where we need to be today, then we can focus down the road a little bit further. Again, allows for potential to hire firefighter EMTs. Again, this is cost savings. This is way down the road. I don't even want to look at that today because we're not there. And again, potentially maybe a larger workforce to choose from. As Mr. Hennessy stated, do we have any interest today in medical onlys? I can say to you comfortably, yes, we do have interest today.
What's the day gonna look like for the medics?
I'm sorry.
What's a day, like a shift gonna look like for them?
They're going to be part of the actual duty shift. So they will train with the on-duty shift because we do EMS, in-service EMS training. They can be trained on firefighter safety and survival, which we're currently starting now. Captain Quatcher has got the lesson plan for the next couple of months on firefighter safety. So they would be part of that. This month here is firefighter CPR. There's a special way to get our turnout gear off and perform CPR. So they would be working on that as well too. So they would be doing chores, ambulance checks, on daily training as well as answering calls. So they would just be integrated as part of the group.
Okay.
And that's the goal, is to be part of a specific group.
So they do everything except they don't go into the fires.
Correct.
But that would allow you to have extra hands if just there is a call just for the medical emergencies.
That's not the base issue. Just adjust that issue, I guess. I'm sorry. Yeah.
How's that better?
Yeah.
Yes, correct, Tom. That's what we're looking to do.
But they'd still be, exactly, they'd still be on the same shifts as the firemen, because
Yes.
you would still need them
Yes,
to do night as well as day.
they would be assigned to the 24s once their onboarding process has been completed.
Yep.
And they would be 2 paramedic onlys would be assigned to each shift, group 1, 2, 3, and 4.
That's what I.
Yes.
So there'd be six medics hired?
8 medics hired.
8 medics.
8 medics. So we're asking for 6. We currently have 2 positions that were added in the last budget, but due to shortfalls, we haven't been able to fill them. And by the time we get up to speed, I'm hoping that the medic only program gets off the ground. And the deputy and I have agreed that we're to take the 2 that are funded today. On top of the 6 would give us our 8, so we could do 2 medical onlys per shift.
And do you have the quarter space for them at the station?
It's gonna be tight. So, yes, we'll need to do some creativeness, but we can get there.
And the parameters of the medic only, is that the first ambulance to go?
It would be in this district. We would still rely on, because of the response times, if the data, if you had a chance to read the data from headquarters to furthest point south, it's still 8 to 10 minute response times. We would still rely on the south side of the town. So basically from 799 South Main Street to the Woonsocket line would still be Station 1's personnel. So we would still be getting the fire truck if the ambulance needed to go out. But from headquarters all the way up to the Medway line and over to the Hopedale, Mendon line would be the ambulance medical only side of headquarters.
Just a random question. 'Cause I know some other places do this as well, at least that I've heard of. If it got to it, would you guys be offering IFT?
What's that?
Interfacility transfers.
As a way to like make some money?
It would have to be way down the road. We need an additional ambulance. I am not a fan of them because I do not want to take away from staffing for the residents. So we would have to again talk about additional staffing. Do we hire to do that? Do you pay overtime to do that? There's a lot there that we have to. Today, I can honestly say to you, Mike, that we're not there.
Okay.
And it's not even a thought in my head nor the deputies, to be honest with you. I don't want to speak for the deputy, but
It's just, I know some departments do it to kind of offset some costs and.
I mean, maybe down the road, if we get our staffing up and get, we see a level, see the call volume level off. So the call volume versus the staffing is level, we can handle what comes in on a daily basis. We may look at that, but again, you're talking about another ambulance, wear and tear, more personnel. We're just not there yet for today. We need to focus primarily on the 911 part for the community. Good question, though. That is definitely a good question. All right, future budget needs. Again, review and build off of the BFD study completed by the Criterion Associates. That you have that study, the master plan. Review our 10-year capital plan. Deputy and I have built out the 10-year capital plan. And again, to continue to meet the needs of the growing community. I think that is our number one target right now, is to meet the future growth of the community. We all know there is some large projects still to come in. There's still some that we're working on. Again, with the 4.85% yearly increase we're seeing, I don't see that going away. That's going to be something that we're going to be dealing with for the next 3 to 5 years, I think, before we level out. In grants, so as we speak, Deputy and I have started assistance to firefighters grants. We're going in with the town of Millis. We're going to try for portable radios, as our portable radios are at end of life. We cannot even get parts for them anymore. The deputy deals with that piece of our organization. He's handed portable radios to our radio vendor. The radio vendor hands them right back and said, take the batteries out and throw them away, because we cannot physically get parts.
Isn't that all?
We can, so as radios are meeting their end of life, we're struggling to replace. So we're doing in the process now of doing a grant. The grant has to be submitted by the end of the month, and then it's a process. I'll keep you all in the loop. It's a lot of work. So we're going in with another community to try for a regional grant at this point here. The second one, this one needs a little bit further discussion, but this is still down the road because this hasn't even been opened up yet. Is the staffing for firefighters and emergency response grant. This is additional staffing down the road. This is again through FEMA. It hasn't opened up yet. I don't even know what the parameters are going to be. They usually open up midsummer, end of summer. So I don't know even if we would be able to apply for it, if we even meet the criteria. And if we did meet the criteria, which we diligently are going to look at, we would need backing from the board, because you need a letter from the board to say, yes, we support the fire department going for this grant.
Dennis, correct me if I'm wrong, pre-COVID, there was a program where you could get FEMA or someone to pay for the first year or two, but you had to commit to keeping that staff.
First 3 years.
First 3 years.
Percent. Is that the same grant?
It's the same grant, it's just 3 years, 100%. This is the last year, unfortunately, that they're going to do it due to levels well above us. That funding is being removed. They're even questioning whether they're gonna remove the AFG, which is the assistant firefighter grant. There's talk about that funding possibly going away. But the word on the street is pretty strong that the SAFER grant, this is the last year.
So when it comes time to consider the medic program, is that something that is
No.
worth considering? No.
No, the way that grant is written, it cannot be staffing for ambulances, it's staffing for fire trucks. So you can't hire that staffing for medic onlys to put them onto an
It has
ambulance.
to be the increase in fire.
Increase in fire staffing, correct. So that's why it's not a topic I don't think we can have tonight, but it's definitely something I would hope we can keep on the radar that we may need to have in a couple months down the road.
Yeah.
And again, we've actually started working on the emergency preparedness grant. We have a rough draft. The grant is, I've got to take it back, I'm sorry. So the emergency preparedness grant, the MPG, we did apply for. It's a small grant. The community only gets $4,600, but we have submitted it. Dennis signed off on that last week. There was a little mix up with the electronic version, so I do appreciate that. We've also applied for a small DFS grant to try to get some other new equipment. Both grants are in limbo. We don't know where we stand. We're waiting to get back on both of those at this point. Do a lot out there. Questions, please.
I don't.
I'm very interested in this medic program. I just think it's it's really a way for us to solve our issues, and I really believe in it. So I'm looking forward to working through this and hopefully get the money to do it, because I think it's important for the town. We are growing, and we all better take note of it. I mean, we keep approving all these housing developments, and more people, you're gonna have to provide more services, and it's gonna come at a cost, and that's the way it is.
Unfortunately, you are correct. We closed out calendar year 2023 with 3,110 calls. It's our busiest year ever. For the month of January, we were 3 calls, under 300 runs for the month.
Right.
So the data is showing this. It's just things that we're making up, or we're saying, hey, listen, we have to have this. The data is showing the call increases. And we want to be on the cutting edge of the medical only program, to be very honest with you.
I think it's a great program. I think it's a great idea.
I like that, it's just being ahead of the curve, it's,
Absolutely.
and, just obviously, it's, more than we do, it's a lot of, people, they don't wanna go to the fire academy, go
Correct.
through all the process, they think it might be too much, at least this will give us a chance. And then maybe down the road, maybe they'll change their mind, they'll get into the program. I mean, I think it's a good, it's a good way to start with.
I'm gonna use the deputy's language, this could be our final meeting if we develop it and build it correctly, so there may be some people and there may not. It would be great, but we do have, and I keep saying this with a smile, we do have people that are very interested if this program does.
What a long way from the old 218.
I know, huh? Or LP1. Now we're dating ourselves.
I also want to commend both of you for a great job.
Thank you.
And I think that you've improved the department just by being there and by doing all the things you're doing.
It's a group effort, but thank you.
You're welcome.
I have 3 to 5 questions that some will be quick. When you look at the call volume increases, warehouses don't drive calls. Is it because we are an aging community and we are seeing more activity out of Rentham Manor, Depot Court? Because the heat maps would indicate that those are the areas of town that are driving some of them.
Our walk-in medical clinics are another 2 big areas for the heat maps. So we're looking at about 73 to 75% of our call volume as being EMS, and then the remaining, we'll just say 25 for easy numbers, is our, what we would call, our fire alarm activations, motor vehicle accidents, structure fires, mutual aids. So all of that encompasses. So I want to say it's an aging community. I don't want to say that, Michael, but I do think it has something that comes into play because we do have 2 large senior housings and we do have the 2 walk-in medical clinics, which sometimes we're there multiple times a day, both at the same time. So
And
yes.
just calls to doctor's office. Do you ever get called to the Franklin Walk-in Clinic from Milford Regional that's over by Gorillas?
Yes,
Usually.
yes, we do meet right there. We do the one down by the bus company by Vendetti Bus. We'll go there as well too. So, yes, we are going to the Milford Regional facilities as well.
Your master plan talked about that Massachusetts was a bit of an anomaly, that it was the countrywide was more mutual aid. So when you do the build out for a medic program, is it practical to roll it out here only? Or to look to other towns to combine it? Or is that too far
That's
away
too-
from what Massachusetts is modeled after?
It's a little too far what Massachusetts is modeled after. So it's a great question.
And the reason I bring it, Blackstone has a fire station on Main Street. I mean,
Right.
that's probably very close to South. Not that that's the way to go, just, is that part of the discussion in your circles?
Not right now. We're being watched very closely, and I say watched because a lot of chiefs are very inquisitive about this program and how it's going to work. Now, do I think if this takes off in the town of Bellingham, and I'm really comfortable to say it will, I think you may see more departments doing, and then we could use that mutual aid with that, Michael, to help out offset. But right now, again, we're going to be trying to be cutting edge with the medic only program. I was at graduation for the fire academy on Friday. I had a chief from the Cape pull me aside and say, hey, how's it going? Where are you at? Can you send me your documentation once you finish everything? I really want to look at this. So there's a department that he's an hour from here, hour and a half from here down on the Cape that are also looking to do this. So I think it will catch on down the road. Yes.
Not to throw a softball question at, but when you come into the department and it's very easy when you do your budget to say, well, that's the way we've always done it. So you're bringing a fresh perspective, and kudos to you, Chris, for the openness too. When you compared us to Hopkinton versus the way we do it or others, doing the budget process for the first time, what was the biggest surprise?
So the biggest surprise for me for doing the out of the gate is I'll just compare the 2 budgets to start with. So starting the budget with well, leaving with what I have in Hopkinton and what I started with here, there was a substantial amount difference. Hopkinton was higher salary, budget-wise, with more staffing, less calls. We were a lower budget, less staffing, more calls. As far as the process itself, the process was pretty close on how the budget, how we were built. One thing we do here that I liked a lot, I do like a lot, There I had to do capital and operating budgets together. They were done simultaneously. I like how we break them out here. We do our big capitals in October, November, and we do our operating budget like we're doing now with a couple small add-ins to the capitals. So I like that piece of it there.
I see it having two chiefs come in simultaneously and look at the process. It kind of puts everything on the table at once. So that it's not 2-3 years apart, which I think is eye-opening, expensive, but necessary.
Correct. And that's why we're
The
gonna,
decisions get made based on that. From this board to see, you know, what can be done and when.
and that's why we're gonna continue to upgrade our 10-year capital plan. And I think that's very important. And again, we may need to make some adjustments depending on, again, on how the community grows. And what we see, that 4.85% a year call increase is continuing. Do we see, as Chief Fitzgerald said, do we see a spike? Do we see a level out? We don't have enough data right now to really look at that. We need a couple years, at least 3 years, so we can go back and look and see how we're trending at that point there.
Anything we missed, Dennis?
No, good information. Obviously, we'll be doing all the budgets at the end of the month and certainly, we've got some good information from Chief Miller that we'll take into consideration while putting all that together.
I just because you've been around, what are your thoughts on the medic program?
I think the Merit program is a great idea, particularly in light of the fact that the majority of the runs, I always thought it was closer to 85% of the runs were Medic, but
About 73 to
sounds
75%.
like a little less than that.
Yeah.
But, you know, obviously the issues are affordability.
Right.
You know, the chief's budget with those positions increases by over $1 million or right around $1 million. And it's not something that we can afford without some major changes. Either additional revenue or finding other means of funding. So, and the chief and I have had those conversations. But I think those are things that we get into when we're putting the whole budget together. Yeah. But yeah, I think it makes good sense since that's the majority of the work that they do and how difficult it is in fire and police, especially civil service with police, to get recruits. It's incredible. The difficulty we get them trained and oftentimes they leave once they're here for a period of time, but I think we're seeing less of that right now.
I was talking with a couple civil service fire chiefs, who run a medic, ambulance service as well. There are no medics on the civil service list right now. So they can't even hire paramedics to staff their service. That's why what they're watching is medic only closely.
Are you gonna be doing a testing for it, chief, or are you just gonna pick I mean, at this point in time, are you gonna pick based on your reputation? Like you might have one of the old 2181 guys that are still around, or
So we would do interview process. What we currently do now is we do a 2-step interview process, and then we do a lengthy background check in accordance with the PD, and then we make a job offer from there. There's multiple steps, so I don't think, I mean, I can tell you right now, we're not gonna change what we do or how we do
so
it.
you're not gonna be like holding a test or anything like that.
No, a test would only be for a promotional process.
So even we decided tomorrow we're gonna hire 6. When they're gonna be hitting on the ground and then, get the work.
We
What's
wouldn't be able to hire 6 in one sitting because we need to do the interview process,
Yeah.
get them through their physicals, get them onboarded, get their 2 weeks of training, get them assigned and get them up to speed. So we were doing like 2 at a time, so you're probably looking 6 to 8 months. Theoretically, before we could get this program. Once we got the approval, then we could start. We just would take our time, so we start them consecutively,
Yeah.
but you're looking probably 6 months before we could really get up to speed.
And you're gonna have its own rank structure within the EMS, or is it gonna be with the guys, the girls?
It's all part of
Okay.
the rank structure that's there. Yep. And it again, it's a point, Mike, that we haven't talked about, because we need to get this program off the ground, then we can massage it as we.
Well, yeah, I don't know if you'd have like an EMS coordinator or anything.
We currently have that now within the CBA, so it's all within that, yes. Yep. And I'm sorry, I cut you off. I thought you were-
No, I just agreed with you on what you said.
Again, thank you for the time tonight. I know it took a little bit of time and I know it's, as Dennis said, it is a large increase, but we're here to try to offer a good service for the community. And again, both of us live here, you all live here. We're all vetted into this community.
Thank you. Thank you
Appreciate it,
very
man.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have a number of items under other business, some are quick hitters, some require some discussion, so we start out with, deficit spending, which is a traditional, we do it just because of the way the budget's done, so we need a motion. It's in the, okay, anyone wants to read it?
Mr. Chair, I move to authorize the town to deficit spend for snow and ice operations for fiscal 2024 as allowed by Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 31D.
Second. Any discussion? For anyone tuning in the audience, we fund our budget to a point which is practical for minimum snow and ice. This is inclusive of filling the salt shed, so we've reached that limit for the year. And this just allows us to deficit spend and then make up the difference at town meeting. That was good.
Snow and ice, 'cause we didn't have one.
No, it's I think it's $180,000 to build the salt
It's
shed.
actually 267.
$267,000.
The line items on salaries are upside down, but in the materials are still good, so. The good news is that we haven't blown through the entire budget. The salary side is, so we do need to go through the process. of voting that.
Just gives us more flexibility in
Yep,
the whole
there's
budget
more
process.
flexibility, exactly.
So, we have a first, a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Next up, we have, ARPA fund projects. Dennis, you want to run through those?
Sure. If we go through.
We got Norfolk
These are
County.
the attachments.
Yep.
Yeah, the first one is, for the board to approve, the above listed funds, 26,000 to be returned to Norfolk County. They're not really being returned. They're, funds that are left over from projects that were approved. So they'll go back into our pool of funds. So we will request additional projects, which we're doing in future motions.
draw
So it's
them
not like
out
this
later.
money goes away. It's just balances that were left that go back into our pot of money, and then we have to request it once again for different projects. So that's what's all, we're reallocating essentially is what it will be.
More formality than anything.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone like to read that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the above listed funds to be returned to Norfolk County.
First and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. There we go. Next up, then.
The second one, Chief Fitzgerald's here, and I asked him to speak briefly to the South Main Street generator, which is a public safety issue, as well as the design funds for police station locker room expansion.
All right, good evening again. South Main Street, water tower up the hill here before Blackstone Street has police and fire radio systems. The brains, so to speak, of them are housed there, and the backup transmitters are housed there. DPW and school radio systems, the whole thing, the whole systems are housed there. And water department has telemetry equipment that talks about whatever the water pressure, chlorine, water things, not a water person, all housed there. There's no backup power of any sort. So we learned this the hard way. About a month ago, there was a power outage on one of those windy days, not even a storm. Eversource Grid, whoever killed the power for 2 or 3 hours. When our stuff went down there, the rest of it is at Forge Hill and Franklin. When the power came back on, this system thought it was the main, everything, we had no police and fire communications for about 45 minutes till people physically drove to places and flipped switches and turned power on and off, that sort of thing. So that problem would be rectified by backup power. And also, the fact of the matter is, during that period of time, DPW had no radios and schools had no radios. They may or may not have realized it, but everything's up there. And obviously the water stuff. So the bigger concern, for us, just that short term, 2 or 3 hour thing was a fiasco. But the bigger concern is what happens if there's a widespread power outage, big storm, couple day thing. So that money will get us an UPS system, an uninterrupted power supply, which is good for about 8 hours. But the reality is it only needs to be on for 30 or 40 seconds, because then the rest of the money will pay for an actual standby diesel commercial generator. So there'll be no continuity. We couldn't do just a generator, because in that 3 to 5 seconds before it kicks on, everything goes haywire. So unfortunately, it's a little more expensive than I'd like to spend, but we've got to spend the 5,000 or 6,000 on the battery system to then pair with the generator system. But it's a public safety thing for all departments. So it's something that I was shocked to find out it wasn't there. Everything else has generator, battery backup, but that site didn't have it. I couldn't believe it. So I talked to Dennis and here we are for that.
And the next one, the police station locker room.
The female locker room is, if you think of a big rectangle, the female locker room is a smaller rectangle within the bigger rectangle. The bigger rectangle is the men's locker room, the small one's the females. I have 6 female lockers. Female police officer number 6 starts the police academy in 2 weeks. I don't.
Females?
Yes. Wow. I don't know where female police officer number 7, 8, 9, or 10 would go. That's a big problem. I mean, the IACP came out back in 2019 with the 30 by 30 pledge, trying to have 30% women be 30% law enforcement. We're going to be at about 17%. So we're well on our way. We're ahead of the curve for a lot of the agencies around here. But I've got a problem looming that she starts the academy, assuming she graduates in June. That's it. So the good news is the building's wood frame construction. It should be a pretty straightforward thing to basically push out the men's locker room 6 or 8 feet that way, maybe a couple of feet that way. And where the inner box is, take some lockers away from the men's side, relocate them, and push the women's side out 6 or 8 feet and add another 6 or 7 lockers to at least double our capacity, if not a little bit more, because and frankly, it's, we look at our pool of applicants, and my last 3 hires are one out of the academy. One of my last hires was a female, and I've got another one. So that's who's taking the test. It's who's applying. The demographics have, changed from when the building was built 9 years ago. And so we need to accommodate that.
Yeah, Tim's taking a look at it. I know with the chief been down and
Yeah.
seems to think it's relatively feasible what they want to do down there. This would just pay for design. It's an estimate, and then of course we'd be coming back looking for the funds to construct it. So
I'm hoping that all in, if we want to get the number, I'm hoping it's less than 350,000,
Yeah.
because there's not a lot to it. It's not a lot of space. There's not a lot to it. It's public sector construction. So I don't even want to pretend I didn't say that number, because we know that by the time a year or 2 from now, we potentially are looking at funding this thing.
Big dig.
Right. So, and I budgeted the max. I looked at like Mass School Building Authority. I said, what is a fancy school costing now? And I went on the extreme high end just because it's a small project. So whoever's going to bid it, they want to make their money. So they're all going to overbid, and the low bid is still going to be probably 50% more than we should really pay if we weren't a municipality, if we were, private business just looking to expand their building by a few feet.
What are the odds of having an all-female chef? After,
We're close. I don't have any female supervisors yet. And I believe only one female taking the sergeant's exam. So we're close.
that'd be pretty cool.
There was a stadium event where Bellingham was the chief and all females, I heard. But all female shift, we don't have a female supervisor yet, so we're not quite there, but we're close. We're close.
Good news.
the last project is the library boiler.
Thank you, Chief.
And we've been talking about that quite a bit.
Oh,
as you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So, just an opportunity, these funds have to be allocated by the 30th of June, or at least put towards a project. So we're obviously gonna meet that. And what we have left for funds, we got a nice summary that was put together here.
Yeah, we make the motion.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the projects as listed herein with the said expenditures to be under the direction of the parties noted.
First and second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none.
There are still some funds, and there'll be some surplus funds as well from other projects that are ongoing. I know we talked about utilizing some funds to support that playground project that the, folks at Salters are
Right.
working on, so there
We have-
will be an opportunity to do that.
Knowing the first thing that was to return funds to Norfolk County.
Mhm.
Do we have the latitude as we get to June 30th to vote on a project subject to available fundings from residual projects?
Yes, yep, that is one of the things, it was a webinar, short time ago, and that was one of the things communities were asking about. And will be wise to do it because there may be unexpended funds from some communities that will go back into the pool.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to, hopefully.
We
be
just have to-
prepared for.
What is the time frame so we make sure that that's on a,
We've got time for that,
Yeah.
so we've got a couple of months and we have quite a few projects that we'll put forward.
an
For the board's
formal
consideration.
vote of the board? that that's
It is.
correct.
Yep, and we'll certainly have that information for you. We have plenty of time for that. But that is something that will be coming forward.
And this is just a summary of the project, no vote
Yeah.
required on this.
Nope.
Okay, thank you. All right, where are we going? Signing of election warrants. That you look, Hillary.
Well, it's just, it's the election warrant for the, presidential primary, this formality you need to sign it.
Not a vote, just a signature.
No.
Thank you.
Good night, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
again.
you.
Appreciate it.
Before we do that, we can look at the next item on the docket. Appoint members of the transportation, to the transportation committee, which is different than the MBTA committee, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And
Requires a vote, Mr. Chairman.
just to take a vote of those members.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to appoint select board member Sahan, town
So
administrator.
I wouldn't be, town administrator can't serve on a board or committee. I should have. said.
Ex officio?
I don't know, ex officio,
All
exactly.
right,
Yep.
so we're not gonna appoint you.
No, I mean, that certainly could be appointed.
And then planning board member Amy Sutherland, public safety Sergeant Chris Padula, DPW director Jesse Riddle.
And you said Beth Cornell.
Okay, and HR Beth Cornell Smith.
Second.
First and seconded, assuming there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, none, 4-0. The MBTA subcommittee, we voted on this the last time, but I guess we didn't.
No, we didn't. We just, voted to have Sahan sit on it.
This is the committee that started on January 25th.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So
So I can make that motion.
Make a motion to appoint to the MBTA community subcommittee, Rob Lucier, co-chair, Liz Berthek, co-chair, Sahan Sahane, William O'Connell, and Jeffrey Skonvaka.
For the second,
Second.
further discussion, assuming that hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, 4-0.
Yeah, great first and second meeting, and another one coming up Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah, we moving along, it's the structure and the whole thing to get the guidelines, so forth, so on, we're working on it. Exciting.
November abatements. Good folks.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the November abatements for $9,481.31.
Second. On this video, what-
You know, so I'm just looking at the. Dennis, do you know offhand what, well, maybe the A&P Bellingham Electric, that's unusual to have that in.
It has a description at the bottom, under her notes.
That's famous.
PowerPoint, due to a system error, billing did not go through to several quarters. When corrected, the customer questioned the stormwater charges, and agreement was reached to keep the current stormwater charges and abate the lien penalties. Is that the one?
Sorry. Small print and bad eyes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Vote on January 22nd minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the January 22nd meetings of 2024 as written.
Second.
First and second, any comments or discussions? Seeing none, hearing none, all those in favor?
Right,
Opposed? None. Yeah. At our last meeting, we had a discussion, I think Andy brought it to the table for a citizen input discussion and established parameters.
right, and I think we were gonna talk about it, and we kind of talked about that, you really do have to kind of establish some sort of parameters and.
We do a pre-select board meeting, and we had some discussions about timing of it. I don't know, Dennis, do you want to recap that? Or?
Yeah, the suggestion was, having individuals call in, even if it's the day of, to the select board's
Right,
office, so we have some sense of
who's coming?
who's coming in, and in preparation to the extent that we can prepare if there's any information, because obviously there's something, it'd be nice. Also, there may be items that we can address without somebody coming in.
Mhm.
Obviously, if they want to come in, they want to come in, but it may be something that can easily be resolved through a conversation. So that was part of it. We were talking 10 minutes, the first 10 minutes of the meeting.
I think that's right.
Yeah, and doing it the second meeting of the month was one of the things we talked about, rather than every meeting, do it the second meeting of the month. Was the other thing. So that was kind of the conversation that we had that.
I agree with
Yeah.
almost everything, but just leaving it to one meeting month. I don't think that's what we need to do. I think we need to have it every meeting that we have, other than if it were in a budget session. The object here is people want to know that they have a forum to come to. And they've always had it before, and then it all went away, and I think it needs to be brought back, and I think people would really appreciate having that forum back. So what I'm saying is, take the first 10 minutes of our meeting. We start our public hearings at 7:10 versus 7 o'clock. And yes, have them call in, let us know if, what they're coming in for, and maybe we have 1 or 2 people or 3 people. But they have to call Heidi and let her know ahead of time, so we can be prepared to have what they need, their information. I agree with 100%, but I really believe that we should have that at the beginning of each meeting. I don't think one meeting a month is, I just don't, that's not what I was, sorry.
So one thought on the one meeting a month is that many of the other boards are only meeting once a month. Hence, that I guess my bigger concern were the situations, and without getting into details, we had a situation with a resident who had a complaint about a neighbor that went through 6 or 7 departments.
I know, I heard, I know about that, I got that.
And to then have carte blanche to come to the select board and say, I still don't like that I was told by every department, the answer is no, because what would we do about that?
Well,
Nothing we can do about that.
there's nothing you can do about that, and I mean, let's face it, anybody could come and say anything they want. I mean, you can't just, the whole point of this is to have a segment where the residents feel if they have an issue or they have questions, legitimate, and I'm not, listen, people, I'm saying this up front here, so you're all watching me, so I'm gonna say it. This is not for silly matters. This is for serious things that you have questions about, or you need to know about, or you have concerns about. I think that's important.
I think Ann has a point with this, at every meeting, but also look at right now. We have our building inspector sitting in a meeting.
I know. I mean, nobody comes and everybody,
Yeah,
but
first-
everybody has something to say.
The first part of, hit it right on the head, Ian. Look, the first part of our meeting, we had, people that had legitimate business here. I don't think we're going to have residents banging down the doors of our meetings.
No.
I think if we were to have, the first 10 minutes, but, if the meeting opens up and nobody's here,
And we move on.
we move on.
Simple as that. We move on.
One of the things that we talked about was we get right into old business, new business at 7 o'clock, and then 7:10, it's just a public hearing scheduled, so it wouldn't be wasted time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what
And
we
it-
did
Yeah,
before.
nope.
We always did that.
There are some serious issues out there. I mean, it gets brought to my attention. I'm sure it's been brought to others' attentions. Where it's like, come to a meeting. I tell them all the time, I sound like a broken
Number
record.
9.
Come to our meeting, whether you're heard or not is at the discretion of the chair.
Yeah.
But you are always welcome to attend our meetings.
Exactly. And I just think this answers that question. I think this answers the need that the residents have come to me about, come to you about, and I think it's important. And I do believe, yes, it should be fine tuned. And yes, if you want to become, come and be on the agenda, please call Hillary, our administrative assistant, and let her know what you're looking for and why you're coming, and she will give you the times that we're going to have.
Obviously, if it is an emergency of nature,
Right,
call
right.
the proper numbers, call the
Right,
right numbers, if your basement's flooding, don't come to the select board meeting.
No,
Call
no,
the
that's what I'm saying. People.
And we also want, ideally, if there's some information to prepare,
Right,
because many of our answers may simply be, or I could envision,
Right,
the last planning board meeting had a significant discussion about the development over
yeah.
Lake Prescott, and for people to say, you need to stop this, it's like, we can't. Are you aware of it? Of course we are. Many of us tuned in on Zoom. And
I
go
heard
to
about it at the
other
gym the
meetings.
next morning. I got a quite the earful.
I just think that, yeah, they have to be told. I mean, if they're coming to complain about the project going on Prospect and Lake, we're gonna say, listen, we're not the forum. You have to go to the proper forum.
Right, yeah.
We can't tell you that whether we like it or we don't individually is neither here nor there. We'll tell you where to go to. the
You
proper
you
forum.
gotta complain about a restaurant, you need to go talk to the Board of Health.
Right, exactly.
I like the idea what Dennis said, is at least, they can reach out to Hillary. And
I think
then-
it's
and then
good, but I think every meeting,
It may be just one, question can be answered with the simple answer, and then you don't have to be here, but if you want to be, you're more than welcome. We have open door policy anyway. Can come by anytime you want, but I think we don't want to be blindsided, and then at least the reason why I don't say blindsided, but we want to give the right answer. If the
Exactly.
people, they have questions for it.
right.
Better for them.
Absolutely, yeah, it's better for them too, it's better for our time, it's better for their time too.
I would.
Yeah.
I would not anticipate that we're going to have 5 people come in
Yeah.
who want to speak in citizen segment. But each of these situations may only last a minute or two where we could say, we understand your concern. We need to set up a meeting with our building inspector. We need to have a meeting with
What-
Dennis Frayne
Right.
or someone of that nature so that, but it goes on the record into the minutes.
Yeah.
I don't think we want Hillary to be the gatekeeper and directing traffic to all departments and
Yeah.
unless you'd
No.
like to be.
I didn't mean to throw extra
No,
work
it's
in there.
No, I think it's good. Yeah, I'm sure it's happened to all of us, and people come knocking on my door on Sunday morning. I have a question. Do you have time to talk to me?
I think what would the board's expectation be as far as how much time is allocated to an
I think we
inquiry?
should give no more than 3 to 4 minutes per person, 3 to 5 ultimate, but if you're
I
gonna
think
have.
5 is too much because somebody's gonna get
But
off.
I think a few minutes, 3 minutes is fine. Listen, we're gonna give you 3 minutes. Give us what you need to know. What is your problem? What can we help you with? And so if the most you should set up in that 10-minute span, I would think would be 3
Yeah.
people.
I think it's for someone watching on TV. We have on our website a way to send a blanket communication that goes to all members of the board.
Right,
Goes to Mr. Frayne, Hillary sees it, and often the biggest challenge we have is making sure that it got answered. It is generally Hillary or Dennis, but it's because we're going to be responding to all. Occasionally, it might have been in the past that when you were out, it would be, I will be responding to the town and go from there.
We try to respond to those as quickly as possible.
Alright, so
so is that?
I'm hearing, I don't know that there's a
everybody
vote, but what I'm hearing is that we would allocate or instruct Hillary that public hearings would begin no earlier than 7:10 to allow that opportunity, and other business will fill the void.
Yeah, so public hearings, the public session would be from 7 to 7:10. And if nothing's going on, then we just move on.
And in the pre-select board meeting would be a determination if the events of the weekend or evening do not warrant a public session. If we were coming for the budget,
Oh, yeah, if it's a budget
I
meeting.
mean, if there's
yeah,
something that
obviously.
is dominating the discussion.
Correct.
Yeah. We're gonna get out of here tonight. At close to 9, which is late for us.
How would you like to promote this?
Yeah. We'll have to talk about that, but there
Okay.
should be, the guidance.
Maybe on the
Clear.
contact
Yeah.
form, say if you'd like to come in person, you can show up at our scheduled meetings. I think we also have to stick to the first and third. I mean, it is published when the meetings are.
Yeah, we can talk to Karen about the best way to have it on there.
Yes, Mr.
Can I say something?
Sure.
So I think, look, this happens now, and I think Hillary probably filters a lot of the stuff. If it's not brought to your attention, if it's not an issue that's brought to Dennis, she's either, she's putting it to the department that can answer the question for the particular problem, whether it's planning, building, mostly zoning and building, probably is most of her calls, but I think she probably does the majority of this now. And if it's an issue that maybe, would be a select board, it should come in front of the select board. Most of it goes to Dennis anyway, for certain things. So I think we do this now. I think Hillary does a pretty good job at sending it to where it needs to go to try to help the person, we do, all of our departments do get emails on the general website as well, generic stuff like this is going on, or this is how do I do this? How can, so I think we do a pretty good job at it right now. But I guess the ones that maybe you're talking about that want to have someone else's ear and maybe express a concern that maybe they can't answer one of the department heads, but I think, for the most part, we answer a lot of that stuff. That's every
Yeah, I
day.
think what we don't want is someone waiting 2 weeks
Yeah.
to come here only to be told that they should have gone somewhere else.
Yeah,
Well, then I would tell them that when they call.
I think a lot of people just like knowing that they have access to,
Yeah.
to
To the board.
To the board.
Mhm,
And I think it's great. I mean, we're all in some way, shape or form out in the public.
mhm.
And I think it's just nice, people, I guess, Market Basket, the VFW.
Wherever.
Yeah, wherever. I mean, again, I've literally had people knocking on my door, 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning. I need to talk to you about this. I think people just wanna feel heard.
Most of the people we satisfy,
Yeah.
that.
Well, not that you guys don't. I mean,
We do, and we will continue to do that, because that's just a part of, we have the answers,
Yeah,
those
so I-
department heads.
I have no worries about you doing your job.
Yeah, so-
And that's
so
not,
just-
that wasn't the point I was making. I have nothing but praise for our town hall and our praise meeting. But this is something that was brought to my attention. I was asked about several times, and I finally said, I remember doing it when I sat here before. We always had a public segment, and I just think it's something that's very good to bring back.
Interestingly enough, though, that was before we had internet.
No, it was not. No, you're doing that.
Did you have those phones that you had to
See,
crank the dot?
John Tuttle, are you watching this? You listen to what they're saying about us? Yeah.
All right,
Well, we can give it a shot and see what happens, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think Dennis mentioned.
All right,
that.
don't be nice now. You said it. That's it. You're in trouble.
And was saying that obviously was in the past and then went away, probably wasn't needed it or felt like maybe wasn't needed it, but now there was a need for it, and then we'll just start with it and then let's see how it goes.
First meeting in March, we'll have.
I think it's a trend with what's going on in the bigger picture of the government. People just want to be heard. People want to be seen. I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, I can just, my point of view, we are the most important form of government there is. We are the local level. We are the ones that make the decisions that impact every single person's lives that live in Bellingham. I think it's great. We're the ones that are the most accessible. We're the ones that they put, we're here because of them. I think they want to be heard. I think it's important, especially with what's going on in today's climate with everything. And I think we need to embrace it.
Yeah.
Whether you had it back in the 1980s or.
Watch where you go too. I'm warning you guys. Really pushing their luck tonight.
I'm a product.
I know it. See, yes. Don't
Product
forget, I was with him.
of the 80s here.
I was
It's all good.
Great idea.
any other new business?
No.
Dennis, you distributed your report
Yeah,
to us, so
good.
without getting into any
Heidi
details.
and I are working closely with Beth on our budget group, and you've got the draft, you'll have the recommendations,
Yeah,
that actually balance it, well, before our workshop, which is the 20th. But I think having this ahead of time, at least gives you an idea of
Yeah.
what people are looking for.
yeah.
Right.
And, as I mentioned, I have a appointment scheduled with Heidi to meet you over at just separate times that it will expedite the discussion on that Saturday, because it crosses off all my questions. So,
Yep.
Right. With that, having satisfied our agenda, I'll say motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good night.
Thank you.